Have you ever felt it? Like the universe paused for a breath, and in that breath, someone stepped into your life so precisely, so impossibly on time, it couldn't have been random? As if something beyond logic, beyond planning, had been quietly arranging the pieces behind the scenes, waiting for just the right second to reveal them. You weren't looking for them. You didn't expect them. And yet there they were, as if some part of your soul had already known they were coming. It doesn't feel like coincidence. It doesn't feel like a lucky twist of fate. It feels like something ancient, like something written before time began. There's no need to explain it. No words can capture what the heart already knows. It's a quiet recognition, a jolt that hums beneath the surface. Not loud, not flashy, but powerful enough to stop everything. The air shifts, the world softens. Something electric hums between you, subtle but undeniable. You don't question it, you feel it, in the silence between your words, in the stillness of a gaze that lingers just a little too long. It doesn't make sense, and yet it makes all the sense in the world. A whisper through reality that says, this is meant, and the signs, they begin to show up in places only your heart understands. Not flashing lights or grand gestures, but a lyric in a song that echoes the last thing they said. A dream you both somehow shared without ever speaking it aloud. A thought of them that passes like a shadow, and moments later, they call. Or maybe you run into them in the most impossible place, on a day that shouldn't have led you there, at a time you both had no reason to be. And in that moment, reality bends. You forget how you got there, only that you're both standing in the same impossible moment, and something inside you whispers, of course. These moments, they're not loud, they're sacred. They ask you to stop searching with your eyes and start listening with your soul. They are soft invitations, not demands, like hidden notes left along your path, asking you to remember something you've always known but somehow forgot. And slowly you begin to see. These aren't coincidences. They are callings, reminders that some meetings aren't new. They're reunions. You start to understand that some people come into your life not to stay forever, but to wake you up, to hand you a mirror, to remind you of the beauty, the fire, the truth that has always lived inside you. They don't complete you. They reflect you. The you that's been buried under fear, under noise, under the weight of forgetting. With them, time becomes strange. Hours vanish in seconds. Silences speak volumes. Even when you say nothing, something in you feels completely seen. And maybe it doesn't last. Maybe they aren't meant to walk the whole road with you. But their presence still changes the way you walk it. You're never quite the same again. Because once your soul has been touched like that, it doesn't forget. You begin to move through life differently, slower, softer, more awake. You begin to trust the strange timing of things, the strange way the world weaves connections across oceans and lifetimes. You begin to believe that the universe isn't random, that maybe it's whispering all the time. Maybe it's always speaking, through feelings, through dreams, through people who appear like echoes of something you once loved. Something you're still trying to find again. And maybe, just maybe, what you're looking for is already looking for you too. So when you feel that spark again, that quiet tremble in your chest, that sudden closeness to a stranger that makes no logical sense, don't rush to smother it beneath doubt. Don't force it into a box your mind can explain. Listen, because there's a voice inside you, small and steady, whispering, this is not nothing. It's trying to tell you that this moment matters, that this person might not be here by accident, that maybe, just maybe, this is part of something larger. You don't need to be searching. You just need to be open. Because life has a way of sending the right people at the exact moment your soul is ready to meet them. Not a second too early, not a second too late. And it's never just coincidence. The kind of alignment that pulls two paths together in the middle of a chaotic spinning world. It's never random. Carl Jung never saw fate as something scripted without your will. He saw it as a living dialogue between your inner world and the universe around you. A collaboration between what lies beneath the surface and what waits beyond the visible. He called it the self, not just who you think you are, but the full expanse of who you're meant to become. And sometimes someone enters your life because they're meant to help awaken that self. Their presence stirs something buried. It nudges you toward wholeness, toward remembering what parts of yourself you've left behind. It doesn't feel forced. It feels inevitable. Like the way certain chords in music feel familiar, even if you've never heard the song before. They arrive from a different life, with different wounds, and yet, somehow, you recognize each other. There's a kind of symmetry in your pain, a strange harmony in your longings. And when you speak, it's not just words being exchanged, it's truths being reflected. Unconscious truths, things you've avoided or forgotten or buried. And that's when things start to shift. Not just outside you, but within. You begin to act differently, feel more deeply, dream more vividly. Emotions rise out of nowhere. You question things you thought were certain. You feel exposed, cracked open. That's not weakness. That's the soul moving. Because when two people are meant to meet, the first signs don't show up in grand gestures. They show up in the subtle changes inside you. The symbols follow, the quiet language of the unconscious. Maybe you both keep seeing the same number over and over. Maybe a line in a song loops in your head right before they say the exact words. Maybe something small, an object, a scent, a place, keeps threading itself between your encounters like a secret code only you two understand. These aren't decorations for a romance. They're signals. They're catalysts. They're asking you to pay attention, to wake up, to grow. Because destiny doesn't arrive to keep you comfortable. It arrives to stretch you. And the ones who are meant to change you will almost always challenge you. They won't let you hide. They will stir the parts of you you've locked away. And yes, there will be resistance. That's part of the sign too. The soul leans in and the ego pulls back. You crave closeness but fear losing yourself. You want to surrender, but you also want to run. That push and pull isn't confusion. It's the threshold of transformation. Jung knew that the soul is always reaching for integration, while the ego clings to survival. And when someone touches your soul, it disrupts everything. You'll question what's real. You'll doubt what's possible. You'll wonder if it's too much, too fast, too deep. And still, something in you won't let go. Even when it hurts. Even when it scares you. Even when every part of your mind says, this shouldn't be happening. But destiny doesn't ask for your permission. It doesn't wait for perfect timing. It moves through the cracks in your certainty. It keeps weaving threads, even when you think the story's over. And just when you're convinced it's done, it sends one more sign, one more symbol, one more impossible moment that stops you in your tracks and reminds you it was never over. It was only just beginning. And still, something invisible keeps drawing you back. A message out of nowhere. A passing thought that suddenly feels urgent. A song, a scent, a chance encounter that makes the world feel too precise to be random. It's not nostalgia. It's not longing. It's a pull from something unfinished, unspoken, unresolved. And it doesn't come from your imagination. It comes from a deeper place. From a story that didn't begin with your first meeting, but long before you even knew how to give it a name. Jung believed we don't just fall into relationships, we're pulled into archetypal stories written in the fabric of the human experience. These are not mere roles. They are ancient forces that live within all of us. The lover, the sage, the wounded child, the warrior. And when someone steps into your life and awakens one of those dormant figures inside you, it's not just a relationship, it's a remembering. You're not just meeting someone, you're stepping into an ancient myth your soul already knows. That's why it feels so overwhelming, so all-consuming. It's not just your emotions that rise, it's the weight of generations, the echo of humanity's oldest dreams and heartbreaks. That's why their gaze pierces through you. Why a single word from them feels like a prophecy. Why their absence feels like something sacred has gone missing. This is not a fleeting attraction. This is soul memory. And when the connection doesn't dim with time, when it only grows heavier with distance or silence, it's because the bond wasn't built on the surface. It was rooted in the unconscious, where the soul doesn't forget what the ego tries to bury. You try to distract yourself. You try to label it, rationalize it, minimize it. But the signs don't care. They don't leave. They wait. And if you still refuse to listen, they start to break through the surface. First with whispers, then with storms. Destiny, when ignored, doesn't vanish, it intensifies. Through aching memories, through dreams that won't leave you alone, through sudden waves of emotion you can't trace back to any clear cause. And it's not weakness that makes you remember them. It's truth, something unresolved, something not yet lived through. And in that unresolved space, something else stirs. Guidance. Not from thought, not from feeling, but from a still, steady knowing deep in your bones. That's intuition. Jung saw intuition not as a guess, not as superstition, but as wisdom from the unconscious. A compass that points you toward what matters most, even when your mind resists it. And when that intuitive voice keeps nudging you toward someone, through every fear, every doubt, every rational excuse, you're not chasing a fantasy. You're being led by a deeper part of yourself. The part that remembers who you are when you're with them. The part that knows you've touched something sacred. Because the real bonds aren't formed in comfort. They're forged in fire. They don't come when everything's perfect. They arrive when you're scattered, uncertain, in the middle of a life you thought you understood. And still, they appear across countries, across relationships, across timing that makes no sense. And yet the feeling never leaves. That ache that says, I know you. Jung called it the longing to be whole, because that person didn't come to complete you. They came to challenge you, to uncover the hollow parts you were hiding from, to show you where you built walls instead of bridges. And through that sacred tension, they don't just walk beside you, they reflect you. They confront the pain you've silenced. They awaken what you've ignored. And through the discomfort, you grow. This kind of meeting isn't peaceful at first. It's chaotic, magnetic, unsettling. You'll argue without knowing why. You'll feel exposed in ways that catch you off guard. But the conflict isn't cruel. It's sacred. It doesn't exist to break you, but to break open the parts of you that have been waiting for light. And sometimes it's not until everything falls apart that you finally understand what it all meant. Sometimes you have to hurt to heal. You have to be shaken to awaken. And somehow, even through the hurt, you still feel them, still sense them. Not as a fantasy, but as a mirror, the one that showed you who you really are. Because the things we refuse to see, the emotions we bury, the truths we're afraid to face, they never disappear. They just wait, quietly, until the right person arrives to hold up a mirror and reflect them back. That's when you understand. Life doesn't hand you the perfect person wrapped in ease and comfort. It gives you someone who ignites something inside you. Someone who unearths what's been dormant. Someone who breaks the surface of your numbness, not to hurt you, but to help you remember. Jung understood this deeply. The soul isn't drawn to convenience, it's drawn to truth. And truth, by its nature, unsettles. It challenges your ideas of love, of timing, of who you thought you were supposed to be. And even if you walk away, even if you convince yourself it's over, that you're better off forgetting, something inside you doesn't let go. Not because you're weak or lost, but because there's a lesson still unfolding, one that refuses to be rushed. It's not about clinging to someone's presence. It's about listening to what their presence awakened. Maybe it's not about being together now or ever. Maybe it's about releasing them with grace or understanding what they brought into your life before letting them go. But make no mistake, that connection wasn't meaningless. Nothing that changes your soul ever is. And then, just when you think you've moved on, synchronicity reappears. A call when you least expect it. A dream that feels more real than memory. A moment on the street when everything around you seems to whisper their name. You think, how could this be happening again? But it's not coincidence. It's the unconscious speaking. Through signs, through symbols, through reality bending itself around something still alive in you. It's not them trying to reach you. It's your own soul reaching for clarity. That bond may not look like love in the traditional sense. It may not end in romance or reunion, but its purpose goes deeper. It calls you back to yourself, to the forgotten parts, the hidden ones, the ones you only began to see once they stepped into your life. And that's where the power lies. Not in changing the other person, not in fixing the outcome, but in allowing yourself to see the deeper meaning behind it all. Because when you do, everything starts to shift. You stop needing certainty. You stop forcing answers. You begin to feel the wisdom in the mystery. You learn how to stay present inside what cannot yet be named. Destiny doesn't follow your timeline. It moves to the rhythm of the soul, and the soul doesn't rush. It waits, it watches, it trusts. And in that waiting, you're not idle. You're transforming. You're not waiting for someone. You're becoming someone. The one you were always meant to be. The one they came to awaken. And in that growth, something unexpected happens. The relationship itself begins to shift. It evolves, it softens, it dissolves with gratitude or deepens into something more refined, more real, but it never stays the same. Because once you change, the connection has to change too. That's how you know destiny is still at work. You start to realize that connection isn't limited to words or proximity. You can feel them even in silence, even from across the world. You carry them inside you, not as a wound, but as a spark. Not as something missing, but something remembered. A presence that lingers without needing proof. Jung called it the anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine forces that live inside each of us. And sometimes someone enters your life embodying the energy your soul has quietly longed for. Not because they complete you, but because they awaken you. They mirror a hidden part of you that's been waiting to be seen. And when that mirror is held up, everything changes. Not always easily, but always truthfully, always deeply, always in a way that leaves you more whole than you were before. That's why it feels so deep, so unshakably real, even when nothing around you can explain it. Because it's not about the surface. You're not just drawn to a person. You're drawn to what they stir awake inside you. A fire, a memory, a forgotten self. It's not about needing them to complete you. It's about how you feel more whole in their presence. How the version of you that shows up around them feels more honest, more alive, more aligned. It's not about finding someone to fill the empty spaces. It's about sharing from fullness, seeing each other clearly, not despite your differences, but through them. Walking side by side, not because you must, but because it feels true. And when destiny moves, there's no urgency, no grasping, just a deep, steady opening. Not to give yourself away, but to show up as you are. To feel everything without clinging to anything. To trust even when the road disappears in front of you. Because if it's meant, if the soul knows it's meant, then no distance, no silence, no detour will ever be enough to tear it apart. But until then, every pause, every quiet space between you carries meaning. Every memory that rises without warning, every dream that brings their face back to you, it's all part of something greater. You don't have to decode it. Just feel it. Just notice what shifts inside you when they pass through your mind like a soft echo. Because that's where the real language of destiny speaks. Not through certainty, but through inner movement. The more you sit with it, the more you begin to realize it was never just about them. It was about what they reflected, what they unlocked. It's like they carried a key to a part of you that had gone untouched for years. A quiet room in your soul where your truest self had been waiting. And when the door finally opens, everything changes. Not just the way you see them, the way you see yourself. Unfiltered, vulnerable, real. That's why it aches, even in silence. Why you can't return to who you were before. Because something essential has been touched. Not in the mind, in the soul. And it doesn't matter how much time you spent together. Whether it lasted or drifted, it's not measured by length. It's measured by depth. If it cracks something open inside you, if it reawakens something sacred, then it meant something. But destiny is rarely soft. Sometimes two souls have to separate before they're ready to truly meet. Not out of failure, but because the real union is never just about being near each other. It's about becoming aligned with who you are. And if one isn't ready, life will create distance. Not to punish, but to protect. Because love given too soon doesn't grow. It burns out. And the soul knows that. So even in the space between you, something continues. A silent thread, a pull that lingers. They still pass through your dreams. Their name still rises out of nowhere. Not as obsession, not as dependence, but as a presence that hasn't faded. A lesson still breathing, a message still unfolding. And maybe that's the real work. Not chasing after them, but turning inward. Asking yourself, what part of me is still reaching for light? What in me still longs to be seen, heard, held? Jung called it individuation, the path to becoming whole. And it's often a bond like this that sets it in motion, because they didn't just enter your life to walk beside you, they came to reflect you, to show you what you've buried, to guide you back to yourself. That's the power of it. You didn't just fall for who they were, you fell for what they awoke. Maybe it was your voice, your fire, your softness, your forgotten freedom. Maybe it was the version of you you'd almost lost, and somehow, without even meaning to, they helped you find your way back. Maybe it's your deepest wound they touched, the part of you you've spent years hiding, avoiding, protecting, and yet somehow they saw it. Not to harm you, but to awaken it, to bring it into the light. And that's never by chance. That's the kind of encounter that carries purpose so profound it changes the direction of your life without ever asking for permission. But once you see that purpose, really see it, without needing to possess it, without clinging to what was or demanding what should be, something inside you shifts. You stop chasing completion outside yourself. You stop confusing love with ownership. You begin to honor what they stirred within you, not because they stayed, but because they showed you something real, something raw, something essential. And if reunion is meant to happen, it will happen. But even if it doesn't, the connection wasn't wasted. It fulfilled its role. It cracked you open so you could meet yourself more fully. This is where the story stops sounding like a fairy tale and becomes something deeper. Destiny, in its truest form, doesn't arrive to wrap you in comfort. It arrives to transform you, to confront your blind spots, to break through the walls your ego built and remind you what's been buried underneath. And it does this through love, but not the kind that simply soothes, the kind that burns, that strips you of illusion, that makes you see yourself in ways you never dared before. And yes, there are always signs, but not all of them are gentle. Some come wrapped in pain, some in confusion, some leave you with more questions than answers. But every single one of them leads you back to the same place, to yourself, to who you truly are beneath the noise, the armor, the roles. Because when destiny brings someone to wake you up, nothing feels ordinary. Everything echoes. Everything matters. Sometimes the bond halts you. Sometimes it reroutes your entire life. Sometimes it shatters your plans so you can finally choose yourself. Because some people don't show up to complete your dreams. They show up to show you your worth, to remind you that the love you've been seeking can only be real when it begins within. And even if you don't understand it in the moment, the day will come when it makes sense. Even the heartbreak, even the distance, even the endings that felt unfinished. That's the strange mercy of destiny. It doesn't always give you what you want, but it always gives you what you need to grow. And when two souls are meant to meet, the universe doesn't force it. It doesn't shout. It moves through the subtlest of whispers. A dream, a number, a line in a book you didn't mean to open, a memory that floods your chest for no reason at all, a single glance that feels like home. That's the soul remembering what the body hasn't caught up to yet. And when it happens, don't dismiss it. Don't try to control it. Just notice, feel, allow. Because when the soul is ready, destiny never misses its mark. And when it does, you realize something even more powerful than love itself. That this person wasn't just a part of your story. They were a catalyst, a mirror, a sacred visitor who helped you meet yourself in a way you never had before. Some people aren't meant to stay, but they leave a trace on your soul that doesn't fade. You carry them, not in longing, but in the quiet strength you found because of them, in the clarity they helped you uncover, in the version of you that rose from the fire they unknowingly lit. And maybe that was always the point. Not to hold on, but to see, to honor, to release, and to be ready for whatever comes next. Not from a place of lack, but from fullness, from depth, from truth. Because destiny isn't measured by how long someone stays, but by what they leave behind in you when they go. And if you're feeling that echo now, if your heart knew these words before your mind could explain why, then you already understand. Some encounters don't need to be labeled. They were never here to fit into categories. They were here to awaken, to remind you that love, in its purest form, doesn't bind, it frees.